Yeah. So if I go like this, it doesn't go crazy though? Okay, this is about, I don't know, probably like this. My amplifier. On the dot. Yeah, probably. You can read comments, that's going to be huge. Hopefully that's what people are reading. Okay, so we're on now. And who do we got on with us so far? No idea. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if we were on or not. Yeah, I got technical problems with Wi-Fi. All right, well, we're having a little bit of technical problems, but we're going to go ahead and get started here. This is really supposed to be a class where we kind of all discuss what's happened with our week this week, and if anybody took me up on my fasting challenge and what you experienced during that and how long you went and all that good stuff. So first, before we get started, I do want to talk a little bit about preparation. I know this is a little bit late, but I am having a little bit of a difficulty with the 20-minute time frame on Sunday mornings, and so sometimes everything doesn't get out exactly the same between the two sermons. So let's just go ahead and talk about preparation real quick, just so everybody's clear and we're all on the same page. It's extremely important to prepare before you fast, which means, 1, I think you should be in good health. 2, I think you should have a good diet. And 3, I think you should be hydrated. And 4, which I actually learned this time, that it's important to have a decent amount of rest before you start a fast. So if you've been working extremely hard and have barely eaten for a few days, maybe took a few light days on eating before you started, maybe took a few light days on staying hydrated before you started, all those things are going to lead to issues with your fast. So, and again, if you're really tired, if you really worked hard, if you really wore yourself out before, you started, that's going to play with you too, especially physically as you go days without eating. Second, if you're not in good health, then it's probably not a good time to fast. And if you feel convicted to fast when you're not in good health, my suggestion is that you should consult your physician before you do. It is serious. It's not something to just mess around with or just do on a whim. It's something that you should be prepared for because it takes a toll. It takes a toll. So, can you see anybody and see if we got anybody on now, or the chat is not working? That's going to make the class. We're going to work on the chat, and I'm just going to, to start, I'm just going to share sort of my reflections with the fast. But before I get there, let me go back to Leviticus 16. This is again the Day of Atonement. This is to the law for the Sabbath. This is for Israel to remember the 10 plagues, and also it points to Jesus, and that's what the Sabbath was pointing to Jesus when the real lamb would be sacrificed for all of the world. And the point of me showing you Leviticus 16, I'm going to read it just for those of you who might be struggling to read it. Leviticus 16 verse 29 says, "And it shall be a statute to you forever, to you forever, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict yourselves, and shall do no work, neither the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you to cleanse you. You shall be clean before the Lord from all your sins. It is a Sabbath of solemn rest to you, and you shall afflict yourselves. It is a statute forever." So this idea of affliction, again, I pointed this out in the first sermon on Sunday, but I did not revisit this specific part of the sermon on the second sermon, is denial. It's self-denial. So we find early in the law of the Old Testament this idea of self-denial. And just to pick up in the New Testament, Jesus said, "Deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow me." And we know that's a daily action that we do. So a fast is a denial of self. And you can deny yourself in many ways. In fact, it was funny. My father called me. I guess I had pocket dialed him, but he called me on Sunday. And the first thing he said to me is, "Me and your mother, we can't fast because of our diabetes." And that is true. If you have certain health conditions, it can be very dangerous to fast when it comes to food. So it's important to know that there are many different types of fast, because the ultimate point of a fast is to deny yourself and give that time, energy, and focus to God. And specifically, it's a way to expose the power that the physical world has over us all. So you can fast from a lot of different things. Anything really that is a distraction. I put a few up here, being phone. Phone can be a huge distraction. TV, games, computers, anything really that distracts you. Maybe it's the stock market. Maybe it's your work. Anything that distracts you from having a good spiritual relationship with God and taking the time to be holy is something that you could fast with and give that time to God. So I just want to be really clear on that. So next time we all fast together or try to fast together, you know that there's a lot more options than specifically just not eating for 3 days. That being said, that is the fast that I did. I did not eat for 3 days. Now I have to I have to be honest, and I have to tell you that on Tuesday night, I started feeling very weak and very lightheaded, and that was because I'd been working out in the sun and doing hard work, fixing up and building my boat from the trailer. And I skipped a bunch of meals last week while I was working on the boat, got a lot of sun, didn't get enough hydration, and I think that started to play with me on Tuesday, and I wanted to drive to go fishing, and I felt weird getting behind a wheel while I was lightheaded. So I wrote it down actually. I did eat 3 slices of chicken lunch meat, 5 pickle chips, and 1 cheese stick. So I totally cheated on the second day for people who were going completely 100% all out. But again, if you don't feel comfortably physically, if you start to feel weird and you have something that you have to do, I think there's also the responsible choice that has to be made at times in your fast. I didn't adequately prepare potentially the way I should have before my own fast. So I kind of broke the fast down into 3 days. Are we still recording? We're just having issues with the chat still? Yeah. Okay. I kind of broke my experience down into 3 days. I'm going to go through mine. I was kind of hoping to do this part together, and if we get the chat up and running, I really, really, really want to spend time hearing what your experiences were for those of you who did it, and if you did it, how long you made it, and really what you spent your time doing and what you learned from it. So the first day for me was this idea of instinct versus commitment. Instinct versus commitment. And my instinct would pull me to the refrigerator. I would get hungry, and before I knew it, I'd be standing there with the refrigerator open, and I would be wondering why I'm doing it. And that happened to me multiple times on Monday. I also dealt with something a little bit different than my last fast, as the kids are home 24/7 right now, and so I was making multiple meals a day for my children and not having any food myself, which I felt like actually made the fast a little bit harder for me. But I constantly felt that first day the feel between my physical self and what my flesh desired, what my physical self, the natural man, wanted, and what my spiritual had committed to doing. And I thought that was very revealing first day, how easy it was for me to instinctually end up in a place because my physical was driving the ship, to instinctually end up in a place that I really didn't want to be in. I didn't want to be standing in front of the fridge. I didn't want to be looking at all that food that I couldn't eat. But that's where I kept ending up. Okay, so we got the chat up and running, just for anybody who's interested in sharing anything with me. And when you do, Doug will read those to me, and I'll do my best to respond to those and share those. They're not going to be able to hear you, though, right, Doug? I can turn that on. If you want, that would be great. All right. Well, we're struggling a little bit on the technical side tonight, but we're going to get through it. And I hope that this is beneficial to you guys regardless of how it works out. So I had this idea of instinct versus commitment, and the physical versus the spiritual, and how that was ruling over me in these decisions that I didn't even really have to think about it. It's just where I ended up. And the first thing that I believe that God put on my heart in this process was that I want my instincts, my spiritual instincts, to actually kick in first. So what would happen was my physical instincts would kick in. I'd find myself in front of the fridge. And my spiritual would have to come in and say, you're not eating. You're not eating right now. You made a commitment to God. You're not eating. So I don't know if it's really possible, but it would be amazing to accomplish something to where my spiritual instincts actually kicked in before my physical. So my spiritual was responding first, not the other way around. You got any comments you want to read to me?
Your mom tuned in too.
Okay.
And Mike and Sue said, please remember Mark Emerson, the Orkey's grandson, who was severely injured in a car accident in Kentucky. Prayer.
Okay.
So I think that was probably a message to whoever tuned in, but
yeah,
it's good to remember that as we talk about prayer.
So that's what happened to me in the first 24 hours. That was the experience that I had. It was this idea of instinct versus commitment. The second day was my weakest day. The second day, what came into clarity for me was the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So the second day, I'm making my kids lunch, and all my favorite little snacks I'm putting on the plate, and I just want them, and I'm thinking to myself, is it really going to be that bad to just eat one? Is it really going to be that bad to just have one? Does God really care if I only have one chip? And I know deep down that God doesn't care that I have that one chip. But I care because of the commitment that I made to God. And it's funny because my body made every excuse. My body came up with every excuse for why I should eat. In fact, it even used certain things to play in this example. So, for example, at lunch on Tuesday, my kids didn't eat all their food. So I haven't eaten in 36 hours, and I'm sitting there looking at the food, and I'm thinking, what's worse, to throw it away or eat it? What's worse? And I know these are silly things to think about, but the reality was my physical did not like the choice that my spiritual was making, and it constantly, instinctually combated me throughout this entire process. What I do want you to know, and I cannot say I accomplished this fully with this fast, but I have fasted many times at this point, and I will tell you that it only takes 48 hours for the flesh to give in to your decision. It only takes 48 hours to beat hunger, where your body says, he's not listening to me anymore, I'm just going to leave him alone. And again, the flesh, it's weak. It's weak. And it takes spiritual commitment to overcome those temptations that we deal with every single day in this world. It takes spiritual commitment to overcome those things. So don't give in to the flesh. Don't give in to the physical. Stay focused on the spiritual. Because the flesh is weak and it will give up. I think that brought a whole new meaning to me with the idea that James tells us about where he says, resist the devil and he will flee from you, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Now, I'm not trying to say that the devil is literally in my skin. But sometimes things in this physical world seem so important. And they're really not. I have to tell you, on day 2, Amir called me. And he had been doing it for 24 hours. And he was struggling. And one of the things he said that I thought was actually really mature was, doing this makes me realize how other people feel when they don't get fed for a day. And how blessed we are to live in a country where we get fed every day. And that's not something we have to worry about. It's actually something we have to commit to. You have to commit to not eating. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have that choice. Sometimes they get meals, sometimes they don't. And it's certainly a blessing, and it was a really cool reminder from Amir, just what was happening with him through this process. Day 3. Day 3 was today. Today was the easiest day by far. I didn't get hungry. I'm very excited about eating after this is over. I won't lie. But I didn't get hungry. I'm not hungry right now. I feel like I could actually go many more days now. I'm not going to, but that's how I feel. Because my commitment turned into resolve today. One, there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? There's light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I only got to make it so much longer now before it's completed, before I've honored my commitment. But my commitment turned to resolve today. There was no way I was going to allow it to be a temptation for me today. There was no way, no matter what came against me, there was no way that I was not going to finish the mission. You got something you want to read, Doug?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Okay.
Betty Larner says that she started her fast on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
She went 24 hours. She ate, repeated again on Tuesday. She was dizzy at the end of day 2, but didn't eat until 24 hours was over. She prayed so much those 2 days. She says that her son Heath also does this fast often, and next she'll try it for 48 hours straight.
That's great, Betty. That is great. 2 24-hour sessions is a great way to start. It's a great way to start. It's a great commitment, and I'm really glad that you did that. I'm really glad that you did that. You need to read another one, you said?
Sure, there's one more. It's from Amy.
From Amy. Let's hear it.
During my fast, God kept reinforcing James 1:9, specifically quick to listen and slow to speak. I need to commit time to spend quietly listening to God daily and to listen to others and be attentive to their needs.
Wow. So I think she's trying to say, I think she needs to listen to me more. Is that what you got from that? I didn't get that either. That is great. I know we talked a lot personally, Amy, about what it was doing for us and the things that we were going to pray about. And I just want to tell you that I'm really proud of your commitment. I know you weren't that excited about it at first. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who tried it who weren't that excited about it either. And I know that you deal with acid reflux, and I know that makes it even more difficult for you. So I'm really proud that you made it 2 days with me. I think you did a great job. And we all need to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. I think that's great. So let me finish with this, because I don't really have a ton more to add to the discussion, but if there's anything you want to throw out there, anything you want to share with the group, now's the time to be typing those things up and getting them prepared. I do have a few questions, but let me just finish this last thought real quick. The idea of commitment to resolve. I want everybody to think about this from the spiritual, not from the fact that I didn't eat, and now I get to eat. So if I only got a little bit of time left, why not just finish it? But when does our commitment to God become resolve? When do we get to the point to where our hope outweighs our present? And I think the most obvious answer that we find over and over again in church throughout all of history is the older we get, the more we start to look to God, the more we start to look to this idea of hope. And while we're young and feeling invincible, we have a lot less time where that runs through our mind. But I want my commitment to be resolve when it comes to the things that I commit to God. I want my life to continue to grow. I don't want to be satisfied with where I'm at and what I've achieved and who I am and the relationship that I have with God. And I want to continue to grow. And I want that to be something that is ingrained in me, in every fiber of who I am, in every action that I make, in every choice that I make, in every thought that I think, in every way that I feel. I want my hope not to be something that I'm wishing for, but something that I'm resolved is coming to me. And I think that was probably the most profound thing that happened for me, was realizing that. Because every other fast I've ever done, I never put a time frame on it. I just said I'm gonna stop eating at this time, and when I don't feel like I can do it anymore, I'm gonna end it. So it was neat seeing the end come, because as it got closer, I got more resolved that I could finish the race, that I could finish what I committed to doing to the Lord. Anything else you want to read real quick? So, here were the questions I'd hope I'd get some response to. What did you do with your time? Betty said she prayed. Amy said she meditated on James. What did you do with your time? How did you seek God out with that time? And what did God put on your heart? Amy shared what God put on her heart. And I've shared with you the 3 things in the 3 different days, what God put on my heart. And that's it. I just want you to think about what God can do when you take something just normal, just something you every day, and you give it to God. What can you do with that? It doesn't have to be by denying yourself. It could also be just with what you're doing in your everyday life. So I'm going to give it a couple seconds to see if there's anybody who wants to add any comments to this. And if there's not, I don't really have a ton left. And I'm getting hungry. All of a sudden, because I know it's getting close. And it's funny how that kicked right in just now.
One more comment from Amy.
Mm-hmm.
She says she prayed for others, especially Mitzi, and listened to devotionals.
Yeah. That's good. I prayed, I know I specifically prayed for guidance just in life and my own journey and where God is leading me. I know I want to give all my glory to Him. I want to give all glory to Him. And that was something that weighed heavy on my heart in these 3 days. Obviously, I spent time praying for the coronavirus, for the people affected by it, the cure, and unity in our country, because I think that's important. I think that America has been a pretty amazing thing for God in a lot of ways. I'm not saying we're the perfect example by any means, but has done some pretty amazing things for the world in spreading the gospel.
Betty thanked Amy for her prayers, said that they all need the whole family needs our prayers.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we need to remember to be praying for each other. I know sometimes our prayer life gets very focused on self. And it's very easy to just pray for yourself and your family and your own situations that you're constantly thinking of. But
and even families with someone who's sick, the whole family suffers along with them.
That's right. No doubt. All right, you guys. Well, I do appreciate the comments that we got, and I appreciate everybody who went through this with me. And I know there's more people who did it that aren't on the live stream here tonight, which is okay. But just thank you for tuning in and checking us out tonight, and we'll see you later.